as you said, there's been a narrative. And it's funny, it even divides like East and West, right? Between, the East says, no, more in the direction of participation. West is like, no, more in the direction of individuation.
Yes.
Yeah? And then you kind of get this tepid admixture.
Yep.
We're like, well, we'll just give up a little bit and get a little of that. It'll be okay. Like, no, what I'd like to say is there's another location up here, which is a higher tone, which is where you discover that the right kind of fellowship, right, is precisely the instrument that is most supportive in the right kind of individuation.
Yes.
Right? And so then what happens is you get a synergistic feedback loop.
Yes.
And that right kind of fellowship takes as its input, it requires increasingly autonomous, individuated, sovereign individuals,
right,
to become more powerful what it is. And one of the primary outputs, it produces is more sovereign individuals, right? So you basically do a double move. You take these two things here, you mix them, and then you actually flip them and make them co-creative of each other in an ongoing reciprocal opening, to steal your term, or to steal a term that you taught me.
Yes, I like that idea. So that's cool, because I think in some ways I agree. I hadn't thought about that, but the way you just connected that's very. Sorry, I want to slow it. I want to get this. I want the seed to take root. You're making a connection between fellowship and something like Platonic anagoge, the reciprocal opening that's happening, but what you're doing is doing the reciprocal opening between individuation and participation, and that's what good fellowship is. Do I understand you correctly?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
Okay. So I have one question that comes out of that, which is, it's more like I feel the dimensionality opening up, because we talked about service and we talked about calling, and it strikes me now that, because I was only thinking of it in one direction, and I think that's inadequate. There's a sense in which we're living well together if we have a calling. Let me use spatial metaphors, please. We have a calling from within to individuation, and we have a calling from without to participation. And these are both callings to service. This is this is sort of the transpersonal thing that Jung sort of talked about, the relationship between the ego and the self, capital S, right? And then, what Buber talked about out here, the calling to the I, the calling of the thou to the I, right? I'm trying to get out, there's two phenomenological things, and they seem to me to then plug into two meta drives. For me, I would, well, I'll put it out. I'm not sure I'm confident in it, but it strikes me as a reasonable hypothesis that the normativity of the call within is the meta drive to like inner peace, not where that's just an absence of conflict, but that optimization of the relationship between the parts of the psyche, so they are living as well together with each other as possible, right? And then that bounces off, resonates with, right, the normativity of being called into, the real patterns of sociability, the real patterns of distributed cognition. There's a phenomenology and there's a normativity I'm trying to map into this, and I'm trying to flush it out.
So the note that when you hit it really locked for me was that notion of when you said like the aspects of self, and they are in relationship.
Yeah.
Yep. So the as above, so below. So you got your fractal linkage, and this. No, I will invoke Greg in the hyper conversation.
Yeah.
The wisdom energy of having that continuity of contact up and down fractal levels, and that gives us a lot of insight into the attunement of what this looks like at the sort of the ordinary meso level of physical human bodies dancing with physical human bodies. Like, me with you is in some ways very, very much the same as me with myself.
Yes.
I can get myself in harmony, then I'm showing up with, I can know how to show up with you in harmony. And also there's a value in our relationship that is most fully realizable. There's oh God, how's that work? What the hell is that all about? There's something like how weird. This is one of those things that like feels inordinately true, but I have no basis for it.
Well, let's try it.
It's like there's a felt sense of like a hole in the symphony that is you. Yeah, there's like a notion of there being something about the singularness, the uniqueness, the specificity that can only be realized by you in the universe. And there's a yearning, like a calling for it, right? So in me, there's like the world is not yet as perfect as it could be because John is not yet being himself as fully as he could be. And there's literally nothing that I can do other than do what I can to support you in more fully becoming yourself and expressing yourself more beautifully and completely into the world. But I feel that as a loss at the level of the external.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
actually, it's an absence in the world that I'm in relationship with. But that feels very true. Like it feels almost obvious that is the case, and yet I can't explain why that would be the case.
Well, let me think, because something came to mind. He said, obviously you're invoking agape, because that's a purely, the universe would be a better place if John was in it, right? That's like and that's again, now we're making again connections to the parenting, because that's the parental, right? But again, I'm having this sort of because there's something conceptual, but it's okay. I'll just speak, and you'll help me work it out. I've been working a lot on in trying to understand Eckhart and parts of Eckhart in the Neoplatonic tradition, and there's this idea, and you'll see how it connects to what you said in a minute, and then I'm hoping you'll be able to riff on it. There's this idea that there's a uniqueness. That's what you put your finger on there. And then there's also the unity of all. And in some non-logical manner, and in a completely interpenetrating manner, they are one. Because that there's that in the end, right? We get close to what's most real when we stop seeing them. It's like in our mind, they move in opposite directions until they come around and we say, oh crap, they're ultimately one, but not in any kind of logical categorical sense, right? And okay, go ahead.
If I look at this through the lens of proposition, right? If I look at it through the lens of logic, if I presuppose that is the lens through which I look, it looks always, and by the way, it must be, this is very Kantian figurative.
Yeah.
They are distinct, right? They are different. They are not the same. When I perceive it through relevance, right, there's something about that shows up as more fundamental than the notion of sameness and difference.
Yeah.
That's probably the better way of putting it.
Yeah. It's that sameness and difference are all ultimately, this is Spinoza, sameness and difference are all ultimately modes of a greater dynamical reality kind of thing.
Yeah. And then this. Yeah, and the modes are in service, right? The modes give us access to a deepening and a deeper awareness. Those are probably the same. Like those are both themselves also modes of being in relationship, but they allow the actual or the realness of the real to grow, and they allow the perception or the awareness of the real to grow.
Yeah, realization in both senses. Yes.
Yeah, realization in both senses, and that's that. There's not a whole lot more to be said. Like you want to point to the meaning of meaning, like the meaning crisis.
Yeah,
meaning of meaning is that's meaning. Yeah. Meaningfulness is the actual growth, and the awareness of that actual growth, and the increasing capacity to become skillful in actual growth by virtue of becoming skillful in awareness of actual growth, right?
Yeah.
So that's that.